Father figures are not there, and they're looking for that camaraderie. They're looking for that male role model that can help them get somewhere in life, that can help them feed their family, because that's the reason why a lot of young men end up doing these things, because they have bills to pay, they have people to support. So, but how can we, not have that mentality?
In real time, there's a difference between, I guess you would say, us and them. We have not been given a decent advantage as it relates to our households, our median living income, the unification in family. A lot of us haven't had the opportunity to grow in a two-parent household, and very rarely you see that. And of course, there's some admiration for those type of families, but statistically it's very difficult for us because we're used to the status quo, so to speak.
Right.
So of course you would gravitate to those things that would seem like it has that foundation or that solidification to validate you as a man. And unfortunately, there are many, many cultured women that has no choice but to raise their children on their own. And what makes it worse is if they left to raise their children without any financial support as well. It's one thing to have that emotional support and the physical support, but then when the financial support part is taken away from it, it makes things extremely difficult. So I guess you would say that was most of the influence of my decision of wanting to be a part, because I felt like if I had been accepted into that, that part would have gone away.
Yeah, and that's so true, because we've been doing this podcast for a little bit over a year, and a lot of I want to say almost 80% of the individuals who sit here have been raised by single mothers. Whether the father was a Rolling Stone or they just left, or they don't know them, or they passed away, or just different things like that. But a couple of them ended up having some sort of male role model. Maybe an uncle stepped in, or grandfather stepped in, so they were blessed where they had that. But there's nothing like having your father, there, especially if he is positive. And that's one thing I can never understand is how, because for boys, I always feel like when you reach a certain age, you need your father to teach you how to become a man. So even if you're in separate households, I feel like the boy needs to go with the father.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually just did a conference. It was a father-daughter dance in Minnesota, and I was the keynote speaker there. And I had the pleasure of talking to over 600 fathers. Now, I do know, we can run stats and figures all day long, and I can do that, and that's not a problem. But one thing I did notice that there was a fair mix, 50-50, of birth fathers and men that stood in the gap. And I didn't have a choice but to shed tears, because I wasn't nervous. I'm never nervous. I'm from here. So,
right.
Dave Chappelle said it best, Chicago does not have a scared people. But at the end of the day, it touched my heart in such a way to see in one room we had 600 men that was willing to either A, be the father to their children, or B, be the person in between or standing in the gap for that person. And to see it head on, everything just rushed me all at one time. Now, I do have someone that I call my dad, and he's been my dad for the last 23 years. And how we met is probably even more of a remarkable story. Matter of fact, I might write a book about that by itself. But to see someone that can take someone that is not their blood and make them your blood speaks volumes to you as a male, as a man. And that's what the world needs to see more of, especially here in the United States.
How old were you when he stepped in as a father role in your life?
I was 19 years old.
So how receiving were you at that time to receive a man who wasn't biologically your father to play that role? It
took a minute, but I'll tell you what he did that stood out to me.
Okay.